On behalf of International Union for Conservation of Nature, I welcome on the occasion of United Nations Desertification and Drought Day. It is a very important day, and International Union for Conservation of Nature is organizing a series of webinars to focus on various issues pertaining to the land degradation, desertification, drought, and water conservation. And this webinar series, which we started on 16th of June of this month, it will be a 4, you can say, episodes. And today is the main day when we have the UN Desertification and Drought Day. And before taking it further, let me introduce about the International Union for Conservation of Nature.
Namaskaram.
Namaskar, Sadhguru ji.
Namaskar, Pradeep ji.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Sadhguru ji.
So, sir, International Union for Conservation of Nature, was created in 1948, is a membership union uniquely composed of both government and civil society organizations. It provides public, private, and non-governmental organizations with the knowledge and tools that enable human progress, economic development, and nature conservation to take place together. IUCN has evolved into the world's largest and most diverse environmental conservation network. It harnesses the experience, resources, and reach of its more than 1,300 member organizations and input of more than 1,500 experts who are the IUCN Commission members. IUCN mission is to influence, encourage, and assist society. So nature-based solutions are key in the present day perspective when we face a lot of challenges related to the water conservation, desertification, and drought. And in this context, on this today, on the occasion of the Desertification Day, we are organizing this webinar series on focusing on very important thematic areas. To begin with, we'll focus on the, you can say, very, very important initiative and mission undertaken by Sadhguru, who will be sharing his experience and initiative on the spotlight of initiatives taken under the Rally for Rivers and now the Cauvery Calling. And after that, we will be discussing about the conservation initiatives related to the Aravalli landscape, which are very, very important for checking the advancement of desertification and also groundwater recharge for the National Capital Region. And we will also discuss about the water conservation initiatives undertaken by the government of Haryana under the Mera Pani, Mera Virasat initiative for crop diversification and encouraging or incentivizing the farmers for undertaking such type of crops which consume lesser water in the paddy dominated districts. So on this occasion, we have very, very important, you can say, dignitaries with us. And I welcome Sadhguru, the founder of Isha Foundation, on this occasion. And Sadhguru, yogi, mystic, and visionary of our times. Sadhguru needs no introduction. He has been conferred the Padma Vibhushan, India's highest annual civilian award, accorded for exceptional and distinguished services. Speaker and opinion maker of the international renown, he has spoken at various forums across the world. Over the years, Sadhguru has launched mega ecological initiatives. The movements Rally for Rivers and Cauvery Calling address the urgent need to revitalize Indian rivers and issues related to soil, water, and climate change. Recognized globally for their wide reach and impact, these initiatives have become game changers by establishing a global blueprint for economic development that is ecologically sustainable. Sadhguru has offered a comprehensive nature-based solution to tackle issues of biodiversity, water and soil restoration, food security, and livelihood issues through the policy document submitted to Government of India in the Rally for Rivers movement. Sadhguru has been invited by the United Nations Environment, and United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, that is UNCCD, to discuss global solutions to the world's ecological issues. 3 decades ago, Sadhguru founded Isha Foundation a non-profit human service organization with human well-being as its core commitment. The foundation has over 11 million volunteers in more than 300 centers worldwide. And one more aspect is now with the Sadhguru's blessing, the Isha outreach has also become the member of IUCN recently. And I hope with the guidance of the Sadhguruji, IUCN will be guided to undertake various conservation initiatives. I also welcome Dr. Pradeep Kumar Monga from the UNCCD Secretariat. Dr. Pradeep Kumar Monga is Deputy Executive Secretary at the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Dr. Pradeep Kumar Monga provides strategic support to the convention that links sustainable land management with sustainable development goals and climate action and contributes to the global efforts to reverse and prevent desertification and land degradation and mitigate the effects of drought in affected countries in order to support poverty reduction, jobs creation, and environmental sustainability. Prior to joining UNCCD, Dr. Monga worked in very number of senior positions in UNIDO as a Director of Energy and Climate Change, in UNDP as a Sustainable Development Advisor and the JEF Coordinator, and as a member of the Indian Administrative Service. During his distinguished career, he has undertaken several international assignments that include with the FAO, World Bank, and other multi and bilateral organizations and institutions, including like World Resource Institute and TERI. A Fulbright scholar, Dr. Monga has presented technical papers in over 70 international seminars and workshops in the field of energy, environment, and sustainable development. So with these words, I welcome Sadhguru and Dr. Pradeep Monga once again. And to begin with, let me ask Dr. Monga that when we are celebrating today, that very important day, UN Desertification and Drought Day, can you briefly, you can say, explain that what do we exactly mean by desertification and how the UNCCD convention in the global perspective and also at the national level is relevant, and what is the theme of the today's UN Desertification and Drought Day this year?
Thank you very much, Vivek. First of all, on behalf of UNCCD and myself, let me thank IUCN-INDIA for inviting me to this very important webinar on today's World Desertification and Drought Day 2020. As you know, UNCCD, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, was established in 1994, an internationally legally bound sole convention or agreement which brings on focus all issues linking to land degradation, desertification, and drought. And every year on 17th June, we celebrate World Desertification and Drought Day. This is to bring the focus of everybody, all nations, communities, partners on board to really focus on investing in land. Investment in land means investing in sustainable future. And here, this year theme is food, feed, and fiber. Basically, this theme is to bring attention of the global community on humanity's reliance on land for its well-being and health. We have selected this theme this year because we believe along these three words, food, feed, and fiber, we want to bring attention of the public, global community to the current unsustainable production and consumption patterns that are the leading drivers of desertification, land degradation, and drought. And we believe through land, investment in land, we can address poverty, we can address food security, we can address water conservation, and of course, we can really have eco-restoration to bring for the well-being of this planet. So I'm very happy to be here, and I feel to celebrate this World Desertification and Drought Day with none other than IUCN-INDIA and of course Sadhguruji, whose presence in COP14 really in India, which was hosted by Government of India last year in September at Greater Noida, brought to focus very clear message to the world that investment in land, investment in soil brings prosperity to the people, nature, and the planet.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Monga. And certainly the investment in land, and especially now taking care of the nature and nature conservation, is become very, very relevant, especially now when we look that what way we look for our future during the post-COVID times. Because somehow our, you can say, present crisis is somewhere rooted in the, you can say, our disconnect with the nature, or somewhere the destruction or habitat degradation. And certainly, I think on this day, it is a very, very important theme which UNCCD is driving. So now I request Dr. Pradeep Monga ji, UNCCD Deputy Executive Secretary, to take advantage of this day, of the presence of Sadhguru ji, and and request Sadhguru ji to share his vision, initiatives, and future challenges, in what way Sadhguru ji can guide to take this movement further for meeting the objectives of the UNCCD.
Thank you very
much. Over to Dr. Pradeep Monga.
Thank you very much, Vivek, once again for this opportunity to have a dialogue with Sadhguruji on very important theme of nature, land, and prosperity of this planet. As you rightly mentioned, COVID-19 has brought a very wake-up call from nature for all of us. It's time to live in harmony with nature. It's time we must bring land at the center of our discussion, where healthy land, healthy soils can lead to healthy agriculture, climate smart agriculture, healthy forest, and of course, well-being of everyone. And here, if I can really start with our dialogue with Sadhguruji. First of all, Sadhguruji, thank you very much on behalf of UNCCD for your kind support and for your participation at UNCCD Conference of Party COP14 last year, where we saw the leadership of India, especially Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, where we could see that COP14 brought out many clear messages to the world. And among others, we were very happy to hear from our Prime Minister of India, who announced ambitious target of restoring 26 million hectares of degraded land in India by 2030. Sadhguruji, at COP14, your message was very clear, loud and clear, that biggest challenge for the world, before the world, is weakening soil, leading to rapid desertification and land degradation, putting our water and food security at serious risk. In our view now, it's time, especially in pandemic of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 world, it's important to link people's prosperity with nature-based solutions and well-being of planet, and achieve land degradation neutrality by 2030. And what better way to look at that is by linking food, fiber, and feed together in that respect. So let me begin our dialogue with Sadhguruji on the significance of people's movement on eco-restoration efforts around the world, especially in India. Sadhguruji, in 2017, you launched the Rally for Rivers campaign, which was supported by 162 million people in India and led to several important initiatives and policy announcements on river revitalization. How are you able to motivate such a large number of people to act together for conservation of soil and rivers of India? And what would it take, in your view, for something like this to happen on a global scale? Sadhguruji.
Namaskaram, Pradeep, and also my regards to the IUCN president and to IUCN itself as an organization. Well, first of all, during the introduction, it was said that IUCN has diverse sorts of organizations, diverse sorts of goals. Well, in India, we pride in our diversity about everything. But right now, a time is coming where we need to become more monofocused, in the sense we're talking about water, nature, forest, soil. I don't think there are no such goals. There's only soil, soil, soil and soil. Because if we take care of this one thing, water will be taken care of, forest will be taken care of, food security will be taken care of. And India, being 60 to 65% of the population, still engaged in agriculture. This is also the answer for, how do you make a movement like this? 60 to 65% of the population is engaged in agriculture. A farmer is someone for whom soil is not a subject. It is not an academic subject, it's something that he lives with. It is something that determines the nature of his well-being, his future and his fortune. How rich the soil is, and that actually determines almost everything about his life. Well, all of you know there has been a tragic situation in the country about in the last 20 years, it's estimated nearly 300,000 farmers could have committed suicide. So, when you look at the news media, it will be talking about this happened because a bank put pressure on the farmer, this happened, that happened, crop failed, whatever. But I want people to look at this genuinely. If there was rich soil and abundant water, would any farmer commit suicide? Would he lose his heart? Definite no, I'm telling you, 100% no. If there was a rich soil beneath his feet and there is water, he will not commit suicide because he knows the potential of what it is. So what was a very rich soil, a tropical land like this, where particularly in southern India, we were growing 3 crops in a year, with intercropping 4 crops in a year actually. Today it's come down to 1, in some places 2, but largely it's come down to 1, even in the Cauvery basin, it's largely come down to 1. This is because I don't have to tell you the figures, you are the experts in the field, 52% of the Indian agricultural land has been declared as degraded land. Essentially, this is happening because we transited from subsistence farming to the so-called commercial or cash crop farming without a plan, without a time-bound agenda, simply haphazardly we moved. When there was subsistence farming, there was enough nutrition for the people and also there was enough organic material going back into the soil all the time. There were animals, there were plants, there were trees, and always there is enriching of the soil was naturally happening as a part of subsistence agriculture. But when we moved to monoculture, commercial farming, now we were only taking out things from the soil, but we had no means to put back things into the soil. So because of this, soil degradation started, and this degradation has gone on for quite some time. So about how are we able to move so many people? It is simply because farmer is just a human extension of an earthworm. He has the feel of the earth, he has the feel of the soil. Whether the soil is habitable or not, an earthworm knows. Just like that, a farmer knows whether this soil will save his life or take his life. This is a very clear thing. He doesn't have a PhD in soil engineering or whatever, but he knows what is soil. If he takes it in his hand, he knows how it feels. Whether something worthwhile will come out of it or not is something that a farmer just knows by the feel of it. Because there is such a large agricultural population or farming population, well, in this country, the moment we gave a call, what I realized was initially, this has been on in my mind for a few years, but I had not spoken to anybody, including our teams in the organization, I had not spoken. Only 58 days I gave them time. I announced this and said, we need to do this. I said, 58 days, on this day we already fixed the date when we will start. So there was a whole sense of, is this possible across the country, can we run a movement like this? In 58 days, can we organize it? Can we get the needed support? But what happened was, when we stepped out and really went out, it was almost like everybody knew this had to be done. Just literally, the political parties knew this had to be done because across the political spectrum, everybody supported it. People, villages, definitely farmers knew this had to happen. But even in the cities, most people knew this needs to happen. So everybody knew it needs to happen. Only thing was, like the proverbial belling the cat business, they needed an idiot to bell the cat. So when I stepped out, I think I had the whole trappings of being a fool who will step into things without caring for what will be the consequence for myself. So when people saw that, they naturally stood up because they all wanted it to happen. They just wanted somebody to bell the cat. So right from southern states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, at that time, these 16 states we covered were ruled by 6 different political parties. But all of them stood up and spoke in one voice. This is very important in India because rivers and soil are concurrent subjects between the center and the state. The center can only give out a policy, it is the state which has to act because the actual geography is held by the state. But all of them, across the 16 states, every one of those states, the chief ministers participated in the events and it happened the way it happened. And people were not difficult at all because the farmers know what is happening to the soil. They remember, and there is a cultural remembrance of how the land was during their father's time, how the land was during their grandfather's time, and what kind of soil they're dealing with today is a very deeply ingrained memory within themselves, and they know the pain of that, how heartbreaking agriculture is in this country. So they standing up was not a surprise for me, but political parties without hesitation across the political spectrum, when everybody stood up, actually I spoke about this, I said, see, there's such a hopelessness about one being in the government, another being in opposition and opposing everything, but it doesn't matter which party they were, they all stood up and supported. I said, when it really matters, at least everybody stands up and this is fantastic. So this movement happened because, see, when you want a movement, when you want anything large-scale to happen, especially in a democratic country, you cannot do it without people's involvement. People's involvement is vital. So, how you put it across, one thing is, there must be a voice that people trust. There must be a voice that people know that is not a vested interest. There is nothing to be gained for me by going out and doing this. Everybody could recognize that. And when I gave out a call that everybody who consumes water must do this, I think it touched everybody's hearts because they knew that this needs to happen. Everybody knew it needs to happen. The question is who will do it. So naturally it went up from south, as we went up, it built up into a massive movement. And when we went to the Prime Minister to present the physical copy of the Rally for Rivers document, I gave this around 6:15, 6:20 in the evening. Next day morning before 11:30, the PMO, the Prime Minister's office called and said they want a soft copy because a special group has been set up to examine this document. I thought, that's really quick. That's really quick because we need to understand this. In a democratic country, it is the people's thing. How many people are behind it will determine how quickly things will find action. So any political party, any ruling party or otherwise will naturally stand with anything where a large mass of people are behind it. So right now, if we want to make this a global movement, this is the most important thing. I've been talking to other agencies in the UN family about how to divide the world in terms of latitudinal ranges of equatorial region and tropical, subtropical like this, and come up with simple language. Because right now the environmental stuff that is out there is all PhD stuff, common people won't understand. There is so much talk about the environment, but right now if you really look at it, not even 5% of the world's population is conscious of the basic problems. Rest of the population is going about as if it doesn't matter or they just don't know what's happening. So they all think they have individual problems of soil degradation in their land, somebody thinks there's no water for him or her, somebody else thinks plastic is floating around their house, but they don't understand this is a massive problem for the entire humanity. That understanding may be there at the most in 5% of the population. The remaining population is completely unaware of this. So to put this in simple terms, such simple terms that everybody can understand, I'm talking about 5 things that must happen, let's say in equatorial region, 5 things that must happen in tropical region, like this in every region. 5 things that must happen in your country, depending upon in which region you are, and 2 or 3 things that should never happen in your country. This must be listed out, and we are looking at how to do this, and we must educate the world. We are looking at this, that the franchise, the people who hold franchise, that means people who can elect a government, their number is approximately 5.26 billion people hold a franchise, democratic franchise. If we influence 3 billion people to understand what are these 5 things that must happen in your country, 2 things that should never happen in your country, if everybody understands this, it'll become an electoral issue. And we are seeing how to approach the top 3 political parties in every country and make it a part of their election manifesto. Right now with this virus, economy is going to be a serious issue, ecology people think it can be handled later. So it's important that at least economy is the number 1 item in every manifesto, at least the number 2 item in every political manifesto in the world. It should become, in all the democratic countries, it should become, ecology should be the number 2 aspect in the electoral manifesto. Once it's an election manifesto, that means people want it. Only if people genuinely want it, only then governments will invest. Why I'm saying this is, see, the democratic governments, their life term or their lifespan is normally between 4 to 6 years, depending on different nations are going to elections, either 4 years, 5 years or 6 years. So who would want to invest in something which will bear results after 15 years or 25 years? Normally they won't do it because their concerns are within those 4 to 6 years, how to get the maximum result and how to reap benefits from that. It's a democratic process, it's become like that. Nobody wants to invest in something which will bear wonderful results after 20 or 25 years. But all ecological aspects are like this. If we substantially invest now, the results will come in 10, 12, 15 or 25 years depending on what we're talking about. So, if this has to happen, a big yes has to come from the population. If the population does not insist that we want this kind of well-being in the country, governments will not invest either their monies, the budgets or the machinery. Without the involvement of large budgets and government machinery, there is no real solution. Small organizations like ourselves and many others in IUCN and various other places, we can all do our bit, but still it's not a real solution. A real solution will happen only when our policies are directed towards ecological well-being, our budgets are invested towards ecological well-being, and government machinery is continuously working towards that, only then there is a real solution. Otherwise, we'll be doing some patchwork, good work, but still it's patchwork. Wonderful work many organizations have done, but still it is just patchwork. We are applying Band-Aid here, there, because you neither have the budget nor the machinery to really make a nationwide impact on the ground. So, people's movement is most important. Across the world, this can be done. We are looking at this as a part of this, we are in the process of launching a movement called Conscious Planet. I'm sure all of you will be part of that because this is not my project, this is everybody's project. We are seeing how to distance it from me and still make it happen because this is very important. Because right now, there is only one problem on the planet, the human being. Tell me, is there a number 2 problem somewhere? There is only one problem, the human being. If this human being behaves consciously and responsibly, that's it, the solution is right there. There is no many solutions. If any solution has to come, it has to come through the human being because the problem is essentially crafted by the human being.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sadhguruji, for highlighting a very important message here that it's people's movement that will really make a difference. It's time to have policies, collaboration between governments, corporations, and NGOs like yours as IUCN and others global, national and international level agencies to come together we want to address global issues of soil health, land health, and of course, eco-restoration. And it becomes very relevant for a country like India, where we have 18% global population, 1.3 billion. We have only 3% of the land area, which amounts to almost 328 million hectares. And out of that, one-third land area, around 100 million hectares, are degraded lands. And you're absolutely right, when we talk about degraded lands, we are talking about degraded soils also. So it's time to really look at that issue very clearly. But also it's very important to link healthy soils and healthy land with jobs and also income levels, linking ecology and economy. And here, on the global statistics wise, I would like to mention and highlight the fact that every 10 hectares of degraded land becoming healthy land or healthy soils can lead to 2 jobs. And of course, every $1 invested in land addressing the land degradation can yield at least $5 to $10. It means 5 to 10 times income level can increase for farmers. And of course, it has a lot of multiple benefits of food security, water, and eco-restoration, what we call ecological services by land and soils. Sadhguruji, my next question is with you is that, as you said in the past, that with Cauvery Calling project, you are officiating marriage of ecology and economy. I'm using your words. And here, this project is working with farmers along the river basin, and you're taking more of a river basin approach, which everybody feels the most scientific way of looking at that, to partially incorporate agroforestry into smart agriculture practices or resilient practices. And under this project, you are aiming at, or your organization is aiming at planting around 2.4 billion trees under this project. As population and food requirements will grow in coming years, how do we balance our development goals with ecological priorities? In particular, it will be very good to have your views on how do we ensure restoration of degraded lands, rebuilding of habitats, and reversal of biodiversity loss, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic, which is like nature's wake-up call from us on loss of habitats and biodiversity, while protecting our farmers' livelihoods and ensuring food security. Sadhguruji.
Well, Cauvery Calling as a movement, this is its first year of implementation. The government of Karnataka has responded in a very agile manner and given subsidies for the farmers to bring in tree cultivation on their lands. There is a whole lot of misunderstanding about what is agro-farming, agroforestry rather. So what is agroforestry? There is a lot of misunderstanding about this. This does not mean we will replace all the crops with trees. There are many ways to do it, there are many modules through which we can do it. If somebody's land has gone to a certain place where no more agriculture is possible, then you can do a full-scale agroforestry. Otherwise, there are many other modules with which you can grow crops. And crops will grow better both in terms of yield and its nourishment value is way higher than normal. There are any number of studies and these results have been recorded properly, and it shows that the nutritional value in the food has gone up significantly and the soil quality has gone up and the organic content in the soil has gone up just because a certain number of trees are there on the thing. This is not rocket science. The green litter that comes down from the tree is the only way the soil can enrich itself, and of course the animal waste, these two things put together, you're putting back organic content into the soil. About these times, this virus times, where a whole lot of businesses are collapsing or will collapse. Right now there are estimates up to 30% of small businesses may not be able to operate after this period. Well, whether it'll be 30% or 50% or what percent depends on how long the virus situation lasts, how long this social distancing and other requirements will last. Many businesses, as a genre of businesses may not be able to survive simply because without people coming together, those businesses cannot happen. About the wedding, all are invited for the wedding. of this ecology and economy wedding, because this is an ongoing marriage and everybody is invited, everybody needs to participate in this at some point. Why this is important is, right now in this world, without an economic value, nothing is going to be sustainable. There has to be an economic value to keep it going. There has to be an economic value to get the population's participation. You cannot ask the poor farmer in India to save the world, to save the planet, to save the degraded lands. That is not his thing. Only way is to see how this degraded land can be a fortune for him. Today you have seen millions of people leaving the cities and going back to the village. Why do you think this migrant labor, this many millions of people have left their lands, they have left their villages in which their forefathers lived for centuries, they have lived in the same village, but now they were all living in these big cities in pretty, I would say, inhuman conditions. Most people were thinking that when they were walking on the highway, it was inhuman. But those people have not seen in what conditions they were living in the city. The slums in Mumbai, the slums in Calcutta, the slums in Delhi, if you go and see those places, you would understand walking on the highway is not such a bad thing compared to how they were living on a daily basis. But they were earning their livelihood, so they had to live there. Why did they leave their villages and come? Because you are into agriculture, 60-day, 90-day or 120-day crop patterns. If 2-3 crops fail, you are nothing, okay, you are in debt. To escape the debtor, you have to go to the city, you have to just take your family and go. Or before that happens, one member of the family leaves and the rest of the family stays back and he works here, sends back the money to the village. So essentially, degradation of soil and lack of water in the village is a significant factor to push migration towards the cities. And the cities are definitely not equipped to handle that many people. It was estimated, pre-virus, it was estimated by 2030, 220 million people in this country would migrate to the cities. You can imagine how the cities will be with extra 200 plus million people coming into the city. Now they've gone back. Not all of them may ever come back to city, a whole lot of them will get once again invested in agriculture. I know it's not going to be easy, it is going to be a struggle, but fortunately 60% of the population is in agriculture. This is a good time, this is a very good time for us to rethink how to build back our economies, because India as a land from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, we have latitudinal spread that we can grow almost anything we wish to grow 12 months of the year. In many ways, if we make use of this, and also India as a nation has 60% of population still who know how to transform mud into food. This is a kind of a magic. Mud becomes food. It's not a simple thing. People may have master's degrees, but they can't grow a crop. It is just because the farmer looks illiterate and is dressed badly and is malnourished, people think he knows nothing. He knows something that with any amount of education you will not know. Something so vital and simple, but of very, very enormous significance to our existence. So still 60% of the people are invested in this knowledge. This is a good time to make a significant shift towards agro-development and agricultural produce. In many ways, India has the capacity because of the population already being there with the necessary knowledge and skills, and also because of the latitudinal spread and the kind of climate that we have, across the variety of climates that we have, we are capable of growing food for nearly… we can become the breadbasket of the world in many different ways. So, it is very important in building back economy, significant thrust has to be given to agriculture. Agriculture means there is no such thing as agriculture without investing in soil, without investing in soil and soil health. So I think the central government has realized this and there are a whole lot of policies which are going in that direction, liberalization. This is something we've been pushing for quite some time. For the push to become a shove, it took virus's help, that today the laws are relaxed. There was something called as APMC Act, which means the farmer can sell only in the local, established marketplace. These have become hotbeds of corruption and various problems. That is, a farmer cannot take his produce and sell wherever he gets maximum price. Now that act has been relaxed because of this virus situation, and that is a very progressive thing, that if we've been asking for this and pushing for this is also part of the Rally for Rivers document, that a farmer should be able to sell his produce wherever he wants, in whichever form he wants, because it's his produce, he must be able to take it where he wants. These laws were made long time ago and unfortunately they had continued for too long. So this movement is happening, but is it quick enough? I don't think so. Many more things to happen very quickly. Most important thing is, at least we must push for at least 30% of our diet should come from the trees. This is very important. When travelers many centuries ago who came from other lands into this our Bharat at that time, some of them made a comment. Some of the Chinese travelers and also the European travelers made these comments that the Indian diet consists of fruits at an extraordinarily high percentage. They also made comments that maybe it is because of this fruit consumption, Indian intellect is, unusually sharp wherever you go. They seem to be very sharp intellectually, it could be because of the fruit consumption. So, where did we lose our brains? I don't know. But in many ways, we went into monoculture crops and this agriculture industry. Instead of agriculture being agriculture, we tried to make it into a productive industry, and from multiple cereals that we are consuming, we have come down to largely to 2 cereals. This also we've been pushing for. This mainly happened, why this rice and wheat problem came is because these were the only 2 crops which had support prices. The other cereals did not have, but now the central government has brought back support prices for other cereals. Now this support price for ragi, which used to be a South Indian staple diet, which has completely disappeared from people's diet right now, actually has a higher support price than paddy, which is a very progressive step to take, and the realization is coming, this mono consumption of cereals, which was done in European lands because they did not have any other cereal. But here, we have more than 2 dozen cereals which need to be… the consumption of which could make a big difference for human health, well-being. And with this, the land will be rich. If you are growing varieties of crops, the land will be rich. When monoculture happens, the soil is being degraded continuously. The fundamental aspect of this, the human aspect of this is, see, right now, as the economy, in the last 25 years with liberalization in India, the economy has definitely moved on. Over 200 million people have come out of the below poverty line status. Definitely there's been improvements, there's no question about that. But along with this, when people do economically well, there is a massive ill health problem. In Tamil Nadu, it's estimated about 42% of the male population has diabetes. So in many ways, if a large segment of the population is disabled with either some kind of ailment or they have to be careful about how they conduct their life, once this happens, how will a nation progress? How will people progress? Because it'll all become about survival, it's not about thriving in the world, it'll become about how to just survive without, risking your life. So this is happening large scale mainly because we've destroyed the fundamental ethos of agricultural wisdom that we had in this country, that multiple crops are very, very needed to keep the soil strong. Because right now, crops are only weighed. 1 kilogram is 1 kilogram, 1 ton is 1 ton. But what is in that 1 ton? what used to be there in that 1 ton for 50 years ago and what is in that 1 ton of crop today, if you look at it, the nutritional values have come down very dramatically. The micronutrients are completely absent in a whole lot of vegetables and crops, foodstuff that we're eating. So naturally doctors have begun to say vegetarian diet is not sustainable. When the whole world is talking the reverse, when the whole world, everywhere medical science is saying vegetarian diet is the best thing to do, in India doctors are saying vegetarian diet will not sustain your health, you have to eat meat. Why they're saying this is because the nutritional value in the vegetables has gone down so dramatically because the soil is not what it used to be. So this has to change. If this has to change without substantial amount of soil going under tree shade, there is no way to sustain tropical soils unless you put at least 40% of the soil under shade. It's simply not possible. We are just trying to imitate what happens in a temperate climate, in a tropical climate. In a temperate climate, nearly for 3 months, the soil is under snow. It is like that, it is wet and it is fully dripping in. But here, once the trees are removed, the soil is under direct sunlight, which just kills all the biodiversity, and this has to change. At least 40% has to come under tree shade. If this needs to happen, one important thing is at least 25 to 30% of our diet should come from the trees.
Thank you very much, Sadhguruji. It's very heartening to see that how important agroforestry could be for a country like India and rest of the world to provide at least 30% of food coming from trees. And you have rightly mentioned the reason and rationale behind it. Sadhguruji, I would like to now take your attention towards a very important issue, that is financing issues, financing of eco-restoration. In your earlier highlighting issues, you have rightly mentioned significance of policies, significance of agroforestry, significance of people's movement, how you made it Cauvery Calling a people's movement, and how important it is to translate scientific messages into political narratives, which can really come up with the scaling up of such initiatives. Next decade, as you know, will be a decade of eco-restoration, and we are talking about eco-restoration and mitigating climate change. For us, especially, we are also talking about next 10 years will be COVID-19, post-COVID-19 phase, because world has changed with this pandemic. The way we think, the way we live, and how we live with harmony with nature, how nature's conservation or nature's health is as so much linked to our human health. If nature or the soil or the land or forests are not healthy, we are not healthy. Human beings are not healthy. So it's time that we should focus on nature-based solutions, which can really play a very important role on biodiversity conservation and climate change, linking instead of taking environment as a whole, not in silos. As the leader of one of the largest NGOs-led restoration efforts in India, what challenges does a large-scale civil society like yours face in restoration effort? And what resources and commitments can be provided by governments, private sector, UN, international agencies, and other partners from all walks of life to ensure success, not only in India, but also at the global level? Sadhguruji.
Well, fortunately, in terms of policy suggestions, the central government has been very responsive and very agile response. And the Niti Aayog or the planning body for this country, when I went and made a presentation there, from various ministries, all of them were there. Like there are various ministries like agriculture, water, rural development, like this, there are many, but they're all related, but they all function in silos. They don't really meet, and many of them had not met for a very long time. So fortunately, because I think the leadership pushed for it, everything came together and things started moving, and they immediately made a recommendation, a policy recommendation for all the 28 states. So on that level, I don't have much to complain. But for it to go on the ground, the states have to respond with equal agility. Some states are very proactive and they are on, Other states are going slow, there are various issues. Now, of course, there's virus, you can't talk to anybody about anything because that is taking full attention of every state and all the government machinery is there. But even before, not all states were equally… they did not grasp what is the significance of protecting our soil and water right now in this generation, how significant it is. Where there are dire situations, some have responded, others are going at their own pace. In terms of what are the obstacles, well, for myself, because I represent a certain movement and there is a certain credibility, because of that, talking to the government bodies has not been an issue. In principle, they're all welcoming it, but in action, it is slow. It is too slow, I would say. Some of them are agile, but some of them are slow because it involves various departments, various ministries. Agriculture comes under one thing, because we use the word agroforestry, forest department came in, and forest departments, all its rules are only no, no, no and no. And at the most, they'll give you a no objection. I'm saying it is a policy of defense, that is to protect the forest, they have some rules. But the moment we used agroforestry, just to put this idea across that we are not going to any forest, agroforestry is in private lands. Just to put this idea across, it took more than a year to make a whole lot of people understand we are calling forestry, but it's actually agriculture. But still in many states, it falls under forestry, not under agriculture. So once it goes under the forest, all the laws are very protective laws, they are not progressive laws. So that has been one impediment. And another aspect is, well, when we actually get onto the ground, there are various issues, there are communities, castes, political… different constituencies are represented by different political parties. Though at the chief minister's level, you kind of convince and get the ministry into action, but when you go down on the ground to enroll farmers into this, there are issues of different constituencies represented by different political parties, and it is a very tightrope walk, which we are learning the ropes and doing pretty well on that. One more unfortunate stumbling block is there are vested interests who call themselves environmentalists, who are continuously filing one court case after another, everywhere writing negative articles without any basis. They have even gone to the extent of openly writing articles, and these things are published. They are saying planting so many trees is very dangerous for the country. So, there is that group of people. I don't know if IUCN has some hold on them. They must control them, because this is not about me. We as a generation of people, if we don't do what we have to do, we will leave a disastrous world. Especially this country, as you said, the population and land ratio is so badly skewed against us. If we don't act, we must understand this in this country, if other nations do nothing about ecology, they may still survive and thrive well, because there is an advantage of land and population ratio. In this country, if we don't act now, we will leave a disastrous nation, because our pressure on the land is unbelievable. To what extent we have exploited it, most people don't understand. You have all the figures, but people don't understand how it actually translates into human life and life of the soil. How it translates on a daily basis is something that's not understood. I know all of you have worked to stop that stubble burning. How stupid is that? How can we not stop that? The little carbon that you could put back, little organic matter that you could put back, which is agricultural waste itself, instead of putting back into the soil, you're burning it. And people are only worried about it because the smoke is coming into Delhi. That's not even the issue. The real issue is what should have enriched the soil is unfortunately being burnt. So, these kind of practices, all these are there, these issues are not taken up. But there is a whole lot of vested interest groups who have taken on the what to say, the branding of environmentalists. And these environmentalists, all they do is to somehow… I don't know what is the interest, I'm not able to fathom the lack of depth in their minds because what is it? What is it that they're protesting against? What is it that they're trying to stop? Don't they… if they call themselves environmentalists, at least a few fundamental facts they must be aware of. If they're aware of these facts, why is it they're against something that will hugely benefit the farmer and the soil? But for some reason they are. So the amount of time we are spending in the courts, lawyers, the resources, people hanging around this and trying to manage the media that falls out of it, this is an unfortunate challenge in the country. Well, we won't let these things bother us because in spite of the virus, in spite of the whatever lockdown, the Cauvery Calling is well on track. This year we are planting over 17 million trees in farmlands. This must be understood. This is not just planting trees in fallow lands. This is being planted in proper farmlands where a farmer is actually growing an active crop. In that he is planting 17 million trees this year. This is the very first year we will multiply this. We will ensure this is a success, but there are unnecessarily, there are many challenges, but unnecessary challenges, unnecessary impediments are there. I hope they come to their senses and clear the way for something like this, because this is not about you or me. You, Pradeep, you understand this very well. In this generation, if we don't act, we are not a worthy generation. That's all it means.
Thank you, Sadhguruji. I must compliment you and your wonderful team at Isha Foundation for really having resounding success so far on tree plantations and involving people there. I would like to now move to a very important question, which is everybody would like to hear from you, is spirituality, connection between human and nature. And of course, before that, on the positive note, when you mentioned about Niti Aayog, in UNCCD also, we acknowledge a very important role played by Niti Aayog and its leadership while we were hosting COP14 in India, which was basically spearheaded by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And that was very helpful to bring all stakeholders together without any silos. And that's why it was a resounding success. On spirituality, Sadhguruji, you have mentioned many times that it is important for people to become conscious of their fundamental relationships, their fundamental thinking with soil, with land they walk upon, with forest they dwell on. And we must realize, and you mentioned that many times, how healthy the soil will be in future. And you are making our generation, the present generation, this challenge that how we leave this world, this soil and land of this world, much healthier than what we got it when we really came to this world. This is the first part. And second part of my question is, you have raised many times that every insect, worm, bird, and animal in this world acts in harmony with the ecological well-being of the planet. It's only human which is the main problem, who claim to be the most intelligent species, but are not doing that. We are harming the planet and most other creatures on it. How can we change our mindset, our lifestyles, or working together, or thinking together to recognize that every other life matters in nature? Every other life has a right to live on this planet, and humankind's survival is contingent on that. So this is the spiritual message with all of us, and everybody around the world would like to hear from you, how we make that connection stronger in years to come, especially in next decade of eco-restoration.
When we say spiritual process, spirituality is not a teaching, spirituality is not a philosophy, spirituality is not an ideology or something that you make up in your mind. Spiritual process means your experience of life is happening beyond the limitations of your physical boundaries. When I say experience of life happening beyond the limitations of your physical boundaries, let us not, in this kind of a situation, not talk about other dimensions. The simplest thing is just this. Right now, as we sit here, we are inhaling and exhaling. So obviously, our life and our well-being is not limited to the boundaries of your physicality. the very atmosphere around us, we are taking it in and taking it out. So when we first started the movement, at that time the movement was called as Project Green Hands. When we first started this movement, wanting to plant enough trees to convert Tamil Nadu's land area, at least to bring it to 33% green cover, which was the national aspiration. On that day, it was 16% green cover, we wanted to push it to 33%. As a part of this, when we tried to plant trees, I saw the real problem was in human mind. So I started planting trees in people's minds for first 6 years. That is the hardest terrain. But once we successfully planted trees in their minds, transplanting it to the land was not a problem because land is welcoming the tree. It is only the human mind which is resisting the tree. So I had to set up a sort of a spiritual experience for people. I made people sit and made them breathe with a certain process and made them experience what you exhale, the tree is inhaling. What the tree exhales, you are inhaling. So one half of your lungs is actually hanging out there on the tree. Once they got this point experientially, after that you can't stop them planting trees, they're still going on. Many movements have come out of this. There are any number of schools which are now considered green schools because if you plant 10,000 saplings, we give a certificate as a green school. So many schools have gone for that. Across Tamil Nadu, this has happened. The culture has changed in the weddings. South Indian weddings are big affairs. When people come, they eat, and when they're going, they also pack sweets, this, that, everything and give it to them so that they go home and get sick also. So instead of that, today, any number of weddings, they're giving them a sapling. Our volunteers make sure saplings are given. Our volunteers are also outside and we just inquire with them, do they have a piece of land to plant? If they don't have, we will plant for them and we will tell them where we are planting this also, so that they can come and see if they wish. So the culture has changed, people have become conscious, which is very important. Having said that, where will the money come from? What needs to happen? See, what I see is, it is not a question of so much money, it's a question of people's will. Money is definitely needed, otherwise you can't act on the ground. But the most important thing is people's will. Once people really want it, money will come, or if money doesn't come, it comes in the form of material, it comes in the form of help, in so many ways it will come. But definitely budgets are needed, this is why I'm constantly saying it has to become a government policy, the budgets must be there, government machinery must be there, then only it will be a genuine solution. Otherwise, it will be patchy work. So, about Cauvery Calling, about this movement as a whole, about the spiritual dimension of this movement. Spiritual process means you experience life beyond the limitations of your physical nature. This is spiritual process. If spiritual process was a living thing in this culture, not just a memory of the past, if it was a living thing, you didn't have to talk about ecology at all, because people would have definitely taken care of it. So bringing that back is very important, but right now, spiritual process on a large scale is beginning to happen. Today, millions of people are going through this process everywhere. So those people are the real potential, because once they experience their life beyond the boundaries of their own physical self, suddenly their concern and empathy for every other life is unbelievable. It is so impactful in their life that they cannot think of life as me versus the rest of the world. Somehow the very fundamental way you do life is, it is you includes everything else, because this is the nature of the existence. This is not my ideology or philosophy. The very nature of the existence is, we can only exist together, that's how life has been created. Life has not been created, I can live and you cannot live here, or I can live and insect cannot live here. This is not the way the life has been created on this planet. On this planet, you and me can live well, only if the birds, insects, worms, microorganisms, all of them are living well. They are all happy means we will also be healthy, and being happy or not is our choice.
So thank you, Sadhguruji, for your. I'd like to close this dialogue now on your profound statement: planting saplings in mind of people. That's the beginning, and that's where I feel we can really look at nature-based solutions, linking people with nature and planet. And when we talk about it, we are talking about healthy soils, healthy lands, and healthy ecosystems.
And a conscious planet.
The conscious planet. And I would like to thank you for your time and for very clear message to all of us, to the world community, to Indian people and everyone around the world, all partners, that how we can celebrate this World Desertification and Drought Day today in more meaningful way. Thank you so much. Now I will hand over back to Vivek Saxena to further organize the proceedings.
Vivek, first of all, thank you very much for IUCN putting this thing together. I think as all organizations in this country, I think there has to be a strategic oneness as to what we are all going to do. We should not have different goals, there's only one goal. So maybe our style of functioning may be different, it doesn't matter. As long as there's one goal, all these organizations work together, I'm sure in this generation we can find a solution. Thank you very much, Pradeep.
Certainly, Sadhguruji, and your insight and guidance and the vision on this occasion of UN Desertification and Drought Day is very, very relevant. And if you recollect, I have been fortunate when you launched this Rally for Rivers. Then that time I was working in the Haryana state. So when you from Rajasthan to Haryana, in the evening, then I was fortunate enough to meet you and receive you in our rest house at Masani in Rewari. And one more very important aspect, which you have mentioned, that 40% of the soils, 40% shade is required for the soils if we need to have, you can say, healthy soil. And this is very, very relevant. One more important aspect, which UNCCD Executive Secretary in his message has brought to the notice, that we waste every year food grown over 1.4 billion hectares. So that means the wasting of the food, we indeed waste our land, our water, and also our biological resources. We emit carbons, we jeopardize the future of new generations. So certainly, we also need to look into this aspect, that today on this occasion of the UN Desertification Day, we need to reduce our carbon footprint